Hello, everyone. Good morning again. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Well, the rain is also up and early here in Lagos, but it's a beautiful Thursday nonetheless. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
Thought the rain, the cloud was going to...
No way. Nothing is going to get in the way of the beauty.
Good morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, so, I mean, you get to see my person, but we'll just have to go right into the dailies. They do have quite a number of things that are highlighted. And as always, today, let's start with the Nigerian Tribune today.
If you don't mind, Chamberlain,
Yep.
You know that conversation that, around the Senate talking about National Livestock Bureau.
Okay.
You know...
you like the bill? The Bureau?
I looked at our... almost all the, Naira bills that we have. The 15 Naira note, a good number of them. Every one of them had one thing or the other about agriculture. So there is no gainsaying how important agriculture is to us. And a sizable number of them have elements of livestock and the rest of them. But even while we prospered from agriculture, we never at any point really considered having a National Livestock Bureau. So I'm wondering the rationale, because even with the enumeration, we call it guesswork, of the livestock that we have in the country so far, they are not up to 100 million. Nigerians, even if it is guesswork, are more than 200 million. According to the FDB president, 206 million. We haven't even counted ourselves. We haven't indexed ourselves. And we're talking about indexing livestock. Maybe there's something I'm missing, guys.
Well, maybe.
I mean, what's livestock? I think that's part of the things that generated a lot of debate, basically. I mean, livestock, is it cattle alone? Is livestock also poultry, the different levels? But like you said, ideas are ideas until you see how it will benefit, or how it might benefit, or move us from where we are to where we ought to be. So is this one of those, or this is maybe one of... I mean, there are a lot of bills at the National Assembly. There are bills you probably hear and you wonder, how did this come about? But hey, it's a democracy, right? You have those bills put up in the first place. That's why there's the process, the legislative process, the various readings and the public hearing and the eventual passing or otherwise. So, I mean, you can't stop anything from going through that process. But then there are levels it gets to and people begin to pay attention. I mean, recall that the Karma bill that eventually became an act, the social media bill. I mean, a lot of those things come to the floor of the National Assembly, whether you like it or not. But then that's why we have a legislative process.
Yeah, they need to pay attention. We all need to pay attention from day one, from the get-go, so that it's not too late and then you don't begin to cry wolf at the end of the day. But we'll see if some of the dailies reflect some of those things. So straight on to Nigerian Tribune. Remember, they seem to be following up from the theme of yesterday, where this is talking about the national confab, and you can see right here, opposition to national conference, Afenifere Ohaneze Pandef, YCE corporate presidency. So you'd expect some, reactions, as it were. But that is a big one you've got right there on the front page. And then you've got abductors demand 800 million naira ransom for 21 kidnapped private varsity students in Kaduna. So, wow, they're demanding 800 million naira. So you see, when the narrative was out there about people paying ransom, and those people, when it was also suggested, wait a minute, if you're doing all of these things, can they sustain it? And now they turn to a private institution and they're demanding 800 million. I mean, where is that said?
Oh,
I mean, you look through what happens in other parts. In fact, they seem to compare these kind of things to other parts of the world now. Where does this happen? So, who knows?
I mean, it's still uncertain the fate of the 29 remaining Afaka students. You recall that I think 5 of them were first released and another 5, but 29 still remain in captivity since March the 11th. This is April the 22nd, so exactly 1 month and 11 days.
Underscore the fact of how they were, in what shape they were abducted. What were they clad with at the time of their abduction? What are they wearing now, 1 month after?
Well, that's Nigerian Tribune, so you might just want to pick it up and see what else you could make of some of those headlines this morning.
Well, next up is Daily Trust. Let's see the lead here. 45 killed, dozens missing in 6 Zamfara communities. Soldier missing as bandits attack military camp in Niger. Suspected IPOB gunmen kill 2 policemen in Enugu. You see the federal government saying why it's difficult to tame banditry. I mean, the lead story is a very sad one indeed on the Daily Trust this morning, but it's a reality. It's what's happening, and these things need to be reported. And I don't want us to get to a point where it becomes normal to see these kinds of stories on the front page or in the news. This is not normal. This is abnormal. Pages 4 and 9 should give more details on that one. And you see the pictures on the front page show Governor Masari and others assessing the fire incident at the Katsina State House of Assembly chamber yesterday. And it seems the fire did a lot of damage.
Started behind the seat of the speaker.
Goodness. Talk about freak fire. Right under that, you see mixed reactions as IGP recalls 25 senior EFCC detectives. Yes, absolutely. That has been causing quite a stir. Commission hesitant to release officers. Pulling out may affect operations. I think the reason that was given was because they were needed at the police because of clearly some of the challenges we're being faced with. I remember a picture was trending on social media where a young man was flanked by, I think, 4 mobile policemen. And, they were taking pictures. By the way, a young man, a single person, is being guarded by at least 4 well-armed policemen. And, a lot of people said, this is impunity. I mean, these policemen could do well out there in the field where we have 45 killed, for example, dozens missing in Zamfara communities, or where we have issues in Niger, Enugu, and the rest. But you have 4 of them with 1 person. So will those ones be recalled as well? You wonder. That one is on page 5 of the Daily Trust this morning. Let me just take this one more. Let me see, which of them do I take? Senate approves $1.5 billion, 995 million euros external loans for FG. Yeah, that's right. It's on page 8. Let me just take both of them. And NNPC increases daily petrol supply to tackle queues. I wonder if this supply is getting to Abuja. Shots fired this one. That's Daily Trust for you.
Now you're mentioning Abuja, yeah? Oh, I see.
No, it's okay if Kayode does.
Oh, yeah?
We'll find out.
The Vanguard newspaper is also concerned about the recent attack. Bandits raid varsity, kidnap 23 students, attack army base. That's the story you have on page 5. Greenfield University Kaduna attack, staff killed, 800 million naira ransom demanded. Invade military camp in Niger, burn military vehicle, move away with 1. 1 soldier, 1 civilian missing, scores of bandits killed. It's difficult to combat insecurity without required weapons and funds, Army Chief tells Senate. Assures IGP, Army will collaborate with police to tackle insecurity. We must do something extra to change the narrative. Well, so many angles to take that story from, but the details are on the inside pages. Right under the picture there, FG's town hall meeting recommends state police. That story is on page 8. Station burns, oh dear. 2 policemen killed in fresh Enugu attack. Find that story on page 7. I'm looking forward to that day that we won't have one insecurity story on the front page of any newspaper. But just before we take it to Abuja, Mr. and Mrs., and here is Mr. saying, you prayed to God to give you a doctor for a husband, and he gave you this handsome vet. What if he had given you that watch repairer down the road who calls himself Doctor of Watches? And Mrs. responds, you're right. If I come back to this world, I will be more specific. Markwe?
Ouch.
Let me say it how Kayode said it, shots fired. Shots fired, and I'm sure the vet doctors heard you. Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to our Abuja studios. Kayode, I heard you about shots being fired this morning. I think somewhat the queues are disappearing, and we're making progress in that regard. Not as bad as we saw them 2 days ago, and perhaps not everyone got the memo from the NNPC GMD that you know, we have resolved the strike and this should be over in no time, because people were still queued. Ideally, you think if people don't have, they will just, you know, pass by and wait until the queues dissipate, but they still prefer to queue, so hey. Well, it does look like we're making progress. Let's take a look at New Telegraph for you this morning and see what's on the front page. It's not a story on insecurity, but it's something that could cause insecurity, especially when corruption could be involved. Look at this. Some pensioners get 2,000 naira monthly. That's according to federal government and Labour. 2,000 naira. So imagine you retire at some point and what hits your account is 2,000 naira. In an economy where inflation is run away, I don't know what will happen then. But page 2 will give you details of where that story came from. This is it. As senior citizens embark on nationwide protest Friday. Okay, remember that we had them here in our studios. They had some disagreements, consequential adjustments that ought to have been made as a result of the increase in minimum wage hasn't been made for a number of them. And they had expressed their grievances. There were some interventions. And we don't know how far that has gone, but this is the news on the front page of New Telegraph. They are to embark on a nationwide protest on Friday. That's why corruption can't be wished away in our system. That's according to Ayuba Waba, who's the current president of the NLC. It was at an event yesterday, something put together by National Pensioners Union. It's a page 2 read. You might want to see that. Very disturbing. 2023, no amount of killings, terrorism can stop Igbo presidency. Senator Ogba. Indigbo not seeking secession from Nigeria. That's according to Ohaneze. It's a page 2 and 9 read. Pantami absent as FEC fails to discuss minister's alleged terrorism link. Reps seek probe of alleged tie. Say NAS, DSS not culpable. How? Okay, I want to flip inside the paper to see that. His public apology, enough atonement, that's according to Tanko Yakasai. FEC, Senate OK 265.57 billion naira for customs road projects, that's also there. A number of stories just beneath the nameplate. Army 6 equipment, armored fighting vehicles to defeat adversaries. Chad, Nigeria proposes dialogue for interim government and rebels, that's also there. And gunmen kill Kaduna Varsity porter, abduct students, demand 800 million naira ransom. That story is also on the front page of New Telegraph. And just in case you're wondering what's on the back page, it's some musings by Ike Abonyi. Money printing controversy and Pantami's confession is what's on the back page of New Telegraph. Let's leave it there for the paper.
All right, then. I think this next one might just get people wondering. If you see the headline from that New Telegraph, onto this next one, Blueprint. Senate raises the alarm as Customs budget 2 billion naira welfare packages for retiring officers. So while that previous paper was talking about people getting 2,000 naira as pension package, and now you see Customs budget 2 billion naira welfare packages for retiring officers.
Not all twos are equal. One's 2,000, the other's 2 billion.
So you wonder, they're building staircase to heaven with all this money.
How many are these retiring officers?
It doesn't
Are they
matter
up
how
to
many,
1,000?
2 billion. And then look at the riders now. Allocate 300 million naira as fueling costs for grounded aircrafts. That's not all.
Sorry? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you heard right.
Can you take that
Yeah,
again?
you heard right. Well,
Fueling costs for grounded?
yeah, it may irritate some people more if I underscore it. But look at this other rider. Agency's 257 billion naira 2021 budget passed conditionally. And then, you know, still all the security challenges we have is, it's not enough. You now see NCS impounds 42 drums of explosives, seizes 3.1 billion naira contraband in Lagos. So, a lot happening right there, guys. So much happening in different parts. And you see these headlines, you wonder, what is going on?
It's just mixed feelings. I mean, you see one that alarms you and you wonder,
So
no way.
if 2,000 naira monthly pension for some people, is it monthly or daily now?
Yeah, monthly.
So if people get 2,000 naira monthly, and you see them allocate 2 billion naira for welfare packages for retiring officers, if anyone doesn't get alarmed at that,
How
I
many
don't know.
are they? Anyway, as you
well,
would say.
pick up the blueprints.
Yes, I saw that.
You remember that. Don't forget. As a matter of fact, let me add this. Momo, other animal proteins cause cancer. Experts warn. I know who I'm talking to. They know themselves.
That's a downer for some people because they can picture the pomo already.
They know themselves. The people
that's
who
not
can
just
use
shots
this
fired.
headline.
That's like one.
Oh,
That's coming from experts. Don't forget.
oh, wow.
That's
Don't-
not just.
Remember, experts warn.
Who are the experts?
Well, experts.
Anyway, I don't know who you're talking to, so Kyle,
Whoa,
please
whoa.
go ahead.
So don't mistake it. Those who eat the pomo are not the experts. I mean, the person
Oh, believe me,
who's
those who
advised-
eat it are experts in some sense. They can tell you which one is soft just by looking at it, you know.
Based on the
If that's
color.
what experts is, I wonder what
Based
is.
on the color.
Oh, goodness. I mean, it's a good laugh this morning. There's so much bad news on the front page. But let's take a look at Nigerian News Direct for a moment. The lead story, priority projects funding. Senate approves $2.6 billion loan for COVID-19 food security. So it's on page 2. Yeah. You might find more details right there, like I said. Let me just give you this one. Insecurity. Bayelsa government to relaunch own security outfit. Operation Do Apo. I believe, I hope I got that right, but
So every state now having their own multi-layered security outfit, vigilante group, and then we say we don't need state police. Nice.
Do Apo. I wonder what that means. If you know, let us know. Tweet at us, Sunrise Daily now, on Twitter. You see, fight against insurgency requires a national approach. That's something from CAS, the Chief of Air Staff. I believe it's on page 21. I mean, you can say that again. If we want to win this war, I mean, they always say Nigeria is effectively a nation at war. Then we need to be a nation first before we win that war. Some other stories. You see, 20,843 households, 125,000 individuals, 2,512 MSCs to get support as Sanwo-Olu launches Lagos Care initiatives. How long, how far will that go? Well, we'll see. That's Nigerian News Direct.
The Guardian newspaper is also concerned or interested in the Senate approval of fresh loans. Here's what it says. Senate approves Buhari's fresh loan of $1.5 billion and 995 million euros amidst rising debts. Well, the writers, no compelling reason to take more loans. That's in parentheses, find out who said it. Focus on creating enabling environment. Economists urge. Well, I mean, this, second writer reminds me of what the governor of Ekiti said recently, that unemployment is one of the reasons fueling insecurity. Perhaps that might be a good pointer. More worries as Akpakpa gridlock worsens, defies e-call-up solutions. Is there an end in sight to this gridlock? Tankers, miscreants, union frustrating e-call-up system. Stakeholders blame NPA police for failure of electronic solution. Oil sector exempted because they are big men, says SWIFFIEC. E-call-up system, fire brigade approach that won't stand WAGAF. ETO system will be made comprehensive soon, says Bala Usman. All the details you'll find on the inside pages.
You know, you've heard of rocket science. This is container science. It's difficult to crack. Ah, goodness.
It's just, we still have that, fact that we don't have a central coordinating agency, except the ministry, but the ministry will tell you that they do not have oversight functions on customs service. Anyway, the details are on the inside pages. Well, one of the 4 stories under the picture you see there, over 1,600 inmates still at large 6 months after Benin jailbreaks. The details are on page 28. Marco.
Well, let's look at leadership for you now. They have this one. Federal government states accumulate 20.3 trillion naira debts in 6 years. That's what you find on the front page of leadership. As Senate okays fresh 1.02 trillion naira borrowing. So what they did is try to put it in context for you. You know, a lot of the borrowing was done in foreign currency, so especially the one that was recently approved just yesterday by the Senate. So what they've done is try to convert it to naira and tell you what we already owing in the past and just how much the new debt is going to be adding to the current debt situation we're in. That's what you see on the front. Senate okays fresh 1.02 trillion naira borrowings. That's what's on the front page. They also have borrowings timeline for you. Yeah, some work done here from 2015 to 2020. This story is here just beneath the nameplate. Consensus on state police likely as NEC meets today. I think we all admit that the situation is dire. Page 4 will give you all the details. Greenfield attack, varsity deserted as parents evacuate children. Kidnappers demand 800 million naira. Chad repeals law, names Debbie's son president. That's also there. And Bauchi removes 715 ghost workers from payroll. Now, if you're wondering, and this is very important these days where the country is going through so much, individuals are going through so much, look on the back page and you'll see this. Wanted, community renaissance, caring and kinder Nigeria. Yes, wherever it is you find yourself, a little love, a little kindness will definitely go a long way to help. Yes, things are bad, things are rough, but you never can know whose day you'll lift with just a smile. Look at this. For those, this is to whom it may concern, for those for whom that Bomo story was very disturbing, there's a cartoon on the back page. It's titled Ghana Must Go. It's on the back page of Leadership newspapers. It says, Shank Momo to avoid cancer. That's according to a Don. And you know what the response is? My friend, return to your lab. That's the response from those who love their Momo. But hey, let's leave it there for Leadership newspapers.
Why does it look like that man's name is Showboy? Oh dear. He found it from the lab. Well, speaking about that consensus on state police, we'll have another one coming through, but we'll do that when we return in just a moment. Don't go. what the next steps will be about that now. And then you see FG cautions elite promoting disintegration. Once they will suffer breakup consequences more. So this is saying to be forewarned. Is it beforehand? Is that what this means? Or will they say, we don't mind that? Let's go ahead still.
I mean, the question for me is, so what then is the consequence of a breakup?
Yeah, but it's in the detail, they say.
Okay.
But you see, that detail is never gonna show up. Most of the time, I'm sorry.
It could be right here in the page. Just pick it up and read it.
You have said on this program so many times that the answers are sometimes in history. Historically, Nigeria, when we were clamoring for independence, one of the questions that I put to one of the proponents of the independence at the time was, wait, what did you have in mind post-independence? He said they didn't have anything in mind. He just wanted the colonialists to go. So most of the time we want what we want as we want it. What happens after? Most of the time we don't think that through. Unlike a business, a private business, that you know once you get this is what you have in mind and all of that. But as a nation, we should do different.
And unfortunately, that speaks to us in terms of, who we are to a large extent. Okay, it's no pun intended, but, they say you know what a man can do by what he's done before.
Exactly.
Now, that, just fast forward from that time up until 1999. Remember when they fought for democracy, the civil rights groups?
Exactly.
And they just wanted it right there and then.
Absolutely.
And when that happened, they then backed off. Some of them were advised, don't bother going in. Politics is dirty. No, it's not dirty. Maybe it's the way people do it that makes it dirty. Just as say money is dirty. And you think, what are you people talking about?
But I think the major point from these examples, the independence, 1999, is there was at least some form of conversation. There was okay, so maybe they didn't think that far ahead, but there was a conversation that led up to that. It wasn't a no, as though you're dealing with children or toddlers. I mean, these are adults. They're not just, it's not just one. It's a group.
Yeah, that's on the one hand.
Yeah.
But the additional lessons is, perhaps if they had taken it or if they had it properly planned out, we may not have gotten to this stage.
Absolutely. That's the exact point, right?
We won't get to this stage.
Because just as, the example of this Fourth Republic we all know what has happened in all the republics prior. What could we have done to avert what we have now? Because some would tell you that some of the issues that we're having now are some of the elements that led to the Civil War. And we seem to be tapering. You've heard a number of people that we have heard, had on this program say that, look, some of these things, they are sounding like drums of the kind of thing that we don't want in our nation. And it's just some predictions that people shouldn't even imagine. So, if we want progress, let us think the process through.
Yeah, so speaking about politics being a game of interest, this headline may underscore that. Aregbesola Oyetola rift deepens. Loyalists clash over, wait for it, Osun debt profile. So they look for any reason whatsoever. Just make the clash happen. Just keep it going. Fuel something. So, not fuel subsidy now, but, this controversy as it is. That's Independent today.
Well, Daily Times is next and leads with that one that is still a major source of concern for us. Gunmen abduct students at varsity, attack, kill policemen, burn station. So you see the picture of a section of the burnt divisional police headquarters in Enugu State after it was attacked by those they call unknown gunmen. So it's a different mix, and sadly this cuts across states. I mean, this is not just Enugu. I mean, the abduction took place in one state, the killing of policemen in another state. It's on page 2. Just underscores how widespread this is. You see, FEC approves 8.39 billion naira to augment Sokoto Road construction. There's also the late Odumaki funeral. Funeral obsequies for Afenifere spokesman Odumaki begin today. That's what you have on the front page of the Daily Times. There's also that story about the loans and some other things you might find interesting right here on the front page. So It's going to be an interesting read for you, I promise, from all the dailies this morning. So that's it for the Daily Times.
These issues aren't just going to go away. These issues are not just going to go away. We bring up these issues every day, guys. We table the issues, and we have representatives at the local government level, at the state government level, at the federal government level, at the 3 tiers of government. They are being raised so that they can get the attention that they need. And if we do not give attention to them, it seems that we're just postponing the evil day.
So there you go. That is it. We'll look at some of the dailies here this morning. We will be back in a moment. Do stay with us. All right, welcome back. So let's just get the perspective of former SSS operative, Mr. Abu Adams. He joins us on the line this morning. As you may have seen in some of the dailies now, that an FG town hall meeting appeared to have agreed on state police. They intend to table some of that NEC today. Several reports indicate that. But what does that then mean? What should we expect? Is that going to have any immediate or perhaps future impacts on what is playing out at the moment? Well, those are some of the issues that we're going to pose right now to Mr. Adams. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning.
Well, yeah, having seen some of these developments as they are playing out in different states, as a matter of fact, regions too, coming up with their own security outfit, should people see that as a glimmer of hope that if a town hall meeting did adopt it and possible presentation to NEC, who knows? How should people respond or react to that?
Well, the situation in the country, like we have said before, is so overwhelming to security agencies. Because if you look at every part of the country, there's hardly anywhere there is not an ongoing security challenge. But the most prominent for these bandits is the school kidnap. And the reason is obvious. They are looking at what they can do to make the greatest of the impact and make much more money out of it. However, we have advocated this before, and I'm repeating it again, that Nigerians, irrespective of our position, irrespective of our belief, irrespective of our political leanings, we have to come together at this point in time for us to get ourselves organized into, I don't want to use the word a fighting force, but into a proactive force on our own in collaboration with security agencies with the challenges that we are faced with now. And don't forget that the more vulnerable the society has become, and then unresponsive, the more the bandits, the terrorists are encouraged to attack us the more. And so that is the more reason why that we need to wake up and think out of the box and begin to do ordinarily what they think we cannot do, so that we can salvage ourselves from the present situation.
You know, these kidnaps happening in different parts of the country. I mean, the signs are already there. Today, we see the customs reporting that they seized several drums of explosives. Isn't this, if it hasn't already, going to spark off armed struggle? Because people will feel, look, we can't throw our hands up in the air and watch who knows who or what next that they will target for this bandits or criminal elements.
I think I agree with you that this can really throw up a kind of response from the society that might look as if we are all up in arms. But we cannot run away from it now, because, like I said, what is the strength of our fighting forces our law enforcement agents, the active ones that can deal with this situation. And don't also forget that most of them have had their manpower depleted over the years, from killings, from resignations, retirements, and all the like. And you can see the lukewarm approach to recruitment. You can see up to now we have not been able to conclude recruitment into the police force and some other organizations like that. So that is the more reason why that we need to get ourselves properly organized to work in support of the fighting forces. Or else, because the more the terrorists, the bandits, the kidnappers, whatever you call them, see that the society is vulnerable, the more they are tempted to do more. And like you said, up to now, we still have a lot of influx of illegal arms into our country. And don't even also forget that the incident in Chad, in fact, just before your call came in, I saw a video of some of the personalities, some Chadians that were already crossing in through Cameroon to come into Nigeria and so on and so forth. So there will be so much for us in the months to come, if not in the years to come, and we need to get up and think out of the box. But more importantly, the government and the fighting forces have to go back again to the drawing board so that we don't allow the present situation to overwhelm us. Look at the rate at which police stations are being attacked with ease, particularly in the southeast, and it's not good for us. Of recent too, in Niger State, the military camp was attacked by the bandits. And the sheer number with which these guys come out to operate, sometimes in their 50s and 100s, is something that the earlier we begin to take the war, and notwithstanding who are going to be the various collateral damage. If you look at the national damage vis-a-vis the collateral damage of any operation, I think we need to to wake up more than we are doing now.
Well, Mr. Adams, I just want to find out from you,
yes.
when
yes.
the DSS collects intelligence,
yes.
and they have certain information, who should be acting on that information, and how? I ask against the backdrop of what happened in Imo State and a number of states in the southeast, where we understand that intelligence reports were given well ahead of time, before the attacks, and yet that kind of thing still happens. So if we have actionable intelligence and action is not taken, then where are we?
Thank you very much. You see, in the service, when I use the service, I mean the SSS, when you have credible intelligence that are actionable, first and foremost, you send that intelligence to the agency that are supposed to act upon it with a view to neutralizing the threat. Because most of the intelligence you are having is either to neutralize threat, or to formulate a policy that will advance good governance or prevent any such threat in the future. So first and foremost, you send that report to that intelligence to the organization. If it is something that the police will act upon, for instance, the state director in a particular state command will write that report to the agency, to the police. If it is the military, they will send it to the military. But they will also send that report to their own national headquarters that this is what is about happening, because the national headquarters also have a link with the hierarchy of the organization you are sending reports to, so that they can see that you have done what you are supposed to do. But you see, you don't have an enforcement power to force them to do what you want them, what is contained in your intelligence report. This is what happens all over the world. And that is why sometimes you would have written a report to whatever agency you would have informed, for instance, the state government to do certain things, and they did not do it. You don't have any power to force them to do it, because your role is kind of advisory. more so that you don't have enforcement powers on your own to go and do certain things. So, but these are things that people don't know. They think you are not doing anything. And because it's a service that should not be going on air to be telling people what it does or what has not been done, ordinarily they will keep quiet, maybe until the thing gets blown out and they begin to explain themselves. So
all right,
that is the strategy.
Okay, well, we do thank you very much indeed for your perspectives this morning. Well, back in a moment, we still have a lot more ground to cover, so don't go away.
His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State, is our guest this morning, and he's right here in our studios. He's also the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. Your Excellency, you're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, my sister, and good morning to viewers.
Good morning. Really challenging times that we're in.
Yeah.
And you have been pretty vocal in the last couple of weeks or so or more, especially with regards to security. A number of, all the reports that we have played, even though we wanted to start with something else, we had planned to start with something else, but security remains pressing. And a lot of the videos where you have appeared in recent times, in almost every situation, you have been speaking on security. This morning, we understand that there will be a NEC meeting, the National Economic Council meeting,
yes,
where the governors will be attending. And it will seem that somehow an agenda has already been set. They expect that governors will be reaching some consensus on state policing. Do you think eventually that is where everyone is headed?
Yeah, I think the security situation, right now is such that we need state police. We need state police, it's going to address a lot of concerns because with state police, you are actually engaging people that understand the terrain, that understand the land. And it's going to answer to a lot of, banditry and self-styled, security people that pretend to protect, their regions. I think that will be the answer. And I suggest strongly that federal government should, give into this.
Well, the Southeast Governors Forum, of which you're the chairman, recently came out to adopt some sort of policing, which they have named Ebubeagụ. You were here on our station to shed a little more light on Ebubeagụ, and there have been questions as to how that's going to work. What exactly is currently deficient in the arrangements that we have that you think that state policing will cure?
You see, when people ask us, we, Ebubeagụ, we vigilante, we they carry gun and so on and so forth, I refer them to the Constitution, the constitutional provision. So with state police, all those questions, are embedded there. The way carry arms, they will have the powers of arrest, they will have the powers, to exercise full authority within the concept of, the law. So I think that is the missing gap, and the state police will solve that problem.
Won't it be coming too late? Considering the fact that now, when we look at the nature of attacks in the Southeast, and they're varied, there's a challenge of herdsmen invading communities. There's intercommunal challenges, communities fighting themselves over land or whatever the issue might be. There's also secessionist agitations also bedeviling the Southeast. How do you think that state police, if introduced today, is going to cure any of these evils?
Well, this is what the people, that's what they need, and they understand why they need it. Like I said, within the law, where these people will be allowed to carry arms, where these people are going to be people-oriented, they will come from the people, they will come from the communities. I think it's going to cure a lot of this agitation because, if we allow all these people calling for secession, if we continue to allow it to thrive, it will result to self-help, and that will not be good for the country.
Well, it would seem that self-help is already at hand, so to speak. We heard about the Eastern Security Network. Even though they have, they say they're protecting, the Southeast. It's some sort of self-help because the state governors do not seem to approve of that. You have called them illegal before now. Has there been any attempt to see if there could be some reconciliation or, some staying on the same page as to the end game, which is supposed to be the security of lives of people and property as well, in terms of what they are doing, especially since they're also Southeasterners? One would think that everybody will be interested in the security of lives and property in that region. Has there been any meeting of the sort behind the scenes?
Well, I have a number of times refrained myself from talking about IPOB or ESN. But just because you've constantly been mentioning it, let me throw a little bit light to that. In as much as IPOB and ESN is, to a number of people, is like a necessity due to insecurity in Southeast. And they have their demands, they have their agitations, they have, what, according to them, making them angry. But let me tell you the truth of what is happening. There are bandits everywhere. There are criminals everywhere. There are cultists everywhere. So what happens now in South is that criminals who may not necessarily be members of IPOB and the ESN, we go and commit crime. And they needed a name. So it's safer for them to say, oh, we are members of ESN, we are members of IPOB. So that in quote, the persecution of IPOB and ESN by the federal government, we cover them. That is what is happening in Southeast. Because the IPOB people and the ESN have a number of times come out to say, look, we are not, into terrorism. We are not into violence. We're simply agitating. And these people that are burning police stations, these people that are killing, they are not our members. And so how do you reconcile the two? And that's the kind of self-help, that is unfolding, because somebody is killed, he cannot defend themselves, and then somebody comes out to say, oh, we're going to defend you. And then the person tends to have confidence in that person, even though it's illegal. But he wants life to be sustained.
It's a rather complex situation, but what you have explained now, it would seem, supports what IPOB is saying, that they have no hand in some of what has happened in the South, especially with attacks on police formations or, and police infrastructure as well. Yeah. Because it would seem that it is other people who are doing this in their name. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's what they claim. That's what they claim. They claim that, look, we are not into violence, we are not into terrorism, that people do this thing in their names. And we say, look, banditry is banditry, criminality is criminality. It doesn't matter the name they come with. And so we confront that, and that is our position.
But looking at just how, vulnerable police, the entity of, policing is now in the Southeast, there have been quite a number of attacks on policemen who have lost their lives, sadly. Also, situations that could degenerate into something else in the Southeast, especially where prison inmates are set free. In Imo State, over 1,800 of them were set free in one fell swoop. And that did not stop subsequent attacks in Abia, in other parts of the Southeast, as we saw, where the same style, it would seem, freeing people who were in cells and also burning down infrastructure, police infrastructure has also happened. It would seem, I don't know if this is true, you can tell us if it is, that there is some resentment against the authorities. Is that what is being reflected? Can we safely assume that that is what is being reflected in the attacks that we've seen on police formations?
There is an ongoing madness all over the country right now. where people think that they come out and then do whatever thing they like to do. I will not call it, hunger or, of such, But I listened to one former DIG, I think he was here in your studio. He was talking about the reasons for, burning down police stations and then, killing policemen. And he was saying, look, they're, supposedly, looking for Fulani police people to kill, looking for arms. I will believe that if they are looking for, a Fulani policemen to kill, they have not killed them. They have killed our own people, which goes to say that he was very wrong, in what he's saying. This is pure criminality, because if you're looking for arms, why are you burning down police station? If you're looking for arms, why are you killing people? 95% of those that have been killed are Southeast people, these police people. And this is one area I have said that the leaders of Southeast must rise up to speak against. Because if you keep quiet and you think that police people are being attacked, it's a monster that we must not allow to arise in Southeast. When they finish with that, they'll start going to, stakeholders to kill them. And this is the truth.
That's another angle. So what I'm saying is that it would seem that there is a resentment against the authorities. And by authorities, I don't even mean federal authorities. I mean even the authorities in the Southeast. Is that the reality?
It's not a resentment against it. This is pure criminality. I give you an example. In one of my local government area, where they attacked a police station and killed policemen and burned down police station, they took the arms. And the next day, there are people that are Bonyans, and the next day they went to rob and kill somebody. And the police demobilized them, arrested 3 of them, and recovered some of the arms they took from the police. So it's pure criminality. Just that people find it is like, the high level of insecurity and confusion. So it's a time for criminals to come out and exercise their freedom.
Your Excellency, I don't know if you're aware that, that story was reported on the front pages of some of the papers, where there was an open threat from IPOB, or is it ESN now, daring people to join Ebubeagụ and lose their lives. Did you see that story?
That wasn't the correct quotation. What they said that Ebubeagụ, that anybody who is joining Ebubeagụ to, spy on, on ESN or IPOB, will lose, his or her life, that threat was very much uncalled for, and even though it was misquoted, but that's what they said. But we have no reason to spy, on them. We're there to protect the lives of our people and our properties, so we have no reason to spy on them. Why should we spy on them where they are?
The point I'm trying to make is that there have been criticisms that part of the reason why Ebubeagụ was formed is for the self-preservation of the governors of the Southeast. What do you make of that particular criticism?
There's nothing like self-preservation. You see, what people did not understand is that we've always, we've had this security, arrangement in our states. We have laws backing them, and the South has been saying, okay, we want a joint corporation. We want a name, a common name that all the 5 Southeast states will have to bear. And that's what we concluded a few days back. And we said, look, all the security outfits in Southeast in the various states should now answer Ebubeagụ. And then we are going to amend our various laws on areas of cooperation. And then our central, intelligence command that is going to be at Enugu. And that is just what it is.
If you say so. I'm sure that, there certainly will be more questions on that from my colleagues. Let me quickly flip this to Lagos now, so that we can thoroughly exhaust security matters before we now move on to other matters such as Jusun strike and whether or not even the governors have said they're going to implement financial autonomy and have set a date for it or a time frame for it. What has taken them so long? Let's quickly flip this to Lagos now. Gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning, Your Excellency. We had the security operative, a former SSS operative here on the show some time ago, and he did say that governors actually get intel about some of these things before they happen. So is that the case? And if that is the case, then does it mean that governors actually know what really, to a very large extent, what really is going on. But they're not leveling up with Nigerians.
Well, since he's a former person, I will not join issues with him. But I think, you know, in this country, more intel is needed, you know, from the SSS to forestall some of these things. I won't be here to demarcate any security outfit, but there is no governor who will have an advance information on any of these happenings that will not act. After all, most of the governors don't sleep now. When you wake up and then the CP reports that, you know, the night was relatively safe, you kneel down and then thank God. So there is no governor that is not very sensitive to the happenings, you know, in the state now.
Well, Your Excellency, one of the things that, you know, has agitated a number of people, myself definitely inclusive, is the primary responsibility of the police. You know, the Police Act says clearly that the primary function of the police is to prevent and detect crime. But it would seem like we don't even, we concentrate on fighting the crime as opposed to preventing it. Since the state governors are calling for state police, how do you think we can change the trajectory to ensure that this is done as opposed to spending money to fight rather than prevent?
Yeah, thank you very much. You've touched on one very sensitive area, and that is, you know, preventive of, you know, crimes. And I think that the level of crimes in the country is as a result of unpatriotic act, you know, of a lot of us. We leaders, we come out, you know, television, and then we speak, indict other regions, you know, we speak against other regions, we pick on, you know, on the leader of the country, and then castigate the leader of the country and all kinds of stuff, you know. There's no patriotism at all. And so the way to prevent this thing is that if you are making, you know, unsubstantiated, you know, statements in the social media, the police, the SSS, you should be invited to explain. And this is no politics. Because the country cannot fold their hands and allow people to plunge, you know, the country into another war. This is very important. And this is one area, because I was told that one of the, you know, world wars started with a family quarrel. And so if you are making a statement in social media and they call it freedom of speech, you must come to the law to substantiate it. What I have back in the state now should have, the communal crisis would have stopped. But for the politicians who are making unguarded accusations and statements in social media, and then people outside the state who darken counsel without knowledge, we just cash on that, and the emotion will rise, and the problem will continue. So this is the problem. And when we talk about police, you know, preventing and doing this and that, you know, you see, security is everybody's problem. People move up and down with police, you know, going to host events, host this, and then talk in such a manner that is dividing this country. It should not be allowed to be so. Never in the history of this country have we been so divided because of politics, because people want power by all means. So preventing crime is the duty of everybody. And even if you multiply police by 1,000 in this country and you don't have the cooperation of the people, it is very difficult.
Your Excellency, perhaps that also kind of suggests that there is a different law for Nigerians and another one entirely for politicians. Because if an ordinary civilian, for instance, would make such inflammatory, you know, comments, most certainly the person would have been picked up. And this same thing that you have said has been said by so many other politicians and political leaders. So in that light, what kind of conversation should we be having with the political class to forestall these kind of activities?
The truth is that, you know, we, the leaders of this country, we have to truly, you know, have the fear of God. What we present in the public is different from our hearts. It's different from what happens in realities, you know. And I wouldn't, you know, advocate, you know, for freedom of speech for somebody in the name of politics to plunge the country into crisis. I think there is a need for the leaders, politicians, to weigh their words and be able to defend whatever accusation or whatever information they're dishing to the public. This is very important. An American says that my conscience, that my patriotism is not to my conscience, nor to my president, nor to my, state, but it's to my country. Until we leaders of this country begin to have, patriotism, that is, rooted to the existence of this country and to our children, and to the unborn children of this nation, that is where we begin to say we have a country. In this country now we make laws that will suit our tenor, but that is very unpatriotic. So patriotism is very much needed. And I think that there should be a common denominator for everyone making statement in public, that you should be able to defend it. And we should also be warned as politicians that if Mr. President goes all out to do this, they will say, oh, this is anarchy, so and so forth, So the press should also be able to put a control in this direction.
Well, definitely the press does the best it can, but you mentioned social media, and that's another area which the press definitely doesn't have control over. But back to what state executives are doing. Over time, we have seen governors come up with stance and positions regarding how they're tackling insecurity in their state. Recall the Kaduna State governor, for example, says no negotiations with bandits or kidnappers whatsoever. You have the Zamfara State governor saying, well, there's room for dialogue. At least let's toe the line of dialogue just to ensure that these things are sorted with. And just recently, the governor of Kaduna State says that all governors agree that bandits should be killed. That's what he said. We've heard statements from the NGF and others. I just wonder, for you specifically, what is your stance in handling the issues of, do I call it herdsmen, killer herdsmen, or banditry or gunmen that are causing mayhem in the state? What is the kind of directive you give to security agencies?
What I think is that we've gotten to a point in this country where we needed to review, our situation. And it's not a question of negotiating with bandits or not negotiating with bandits. These bandits are bad people, but the good people also know them. And so we can use, in quotes, the good people to find out. For example, a governor says, look, the demands of IPOB, has some merits. And I believe that some of their demands, have merits, So what is the matter? We can select people, for example, in Southeast, who are the leaders of the IPOB, for example, we are dealing with. Because sometimes, people are fighting for their own self-interest, and they put in quote the interest of the larger society. That's what they're fighting. But if we say, okay, these are your demands, you can't be more Catholic than Pope. We will address the demands. And then you go to the issue of Boko Haram, for example. Of late I read, it may be right or wrong, people sponsoring them and so forth and so on, You can use people that, are also in the know of them and to say, okay, what do you want? I think that, as citizens of Nigeria, we should give them that last opportunity before the issue of the use of force to flush them we can. Because criminality will always be there. But we have to devise a means. And my suggestion is that there should be a kind of, leaders, consensus arrangement whereby you can get, the religious leaders, maybe one from each state or two from each state, and get some, one traditional rulers, and then the former heads of states and so forth, and let them sit down and say, look, can we go around the country? Can we meet some of these people? Can we discuss? Because this thing is getting out of hand. And everyone that is a leader in this country should be concerned, because every day we wake up to, the realities of the time. And this should not be. We have to discuss, we have to, I won't call it negotiate, because if you are fighting for the people, you don't shave a man's head in his absence. Let the people tell you how we want to be fought for. This is very important. This is what I'm recommending.
All right, Your Excellency, we'll go to break, but we'll come back and then take on some other perspectives in just a moment. Please stay with us.
His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum, is still with us in the studio. And we're about to enter another topic now, which is judicial, autonomy for judicial workers. In the last 2 going to 3 weeks now, judicial workers have been on strike, asking for financial autonomy from the state governments across the Federation, and it's been a thorny issue. Your Excellency, how did you receive news of the strike, this eventual strike that happened, and how has the conversation been going in your state about implementing financial autonomy according to the Constitution?
Well, honestly, I'm a bit confused about what is going on in the country. It's not per se going on in my state. I think it's been negotiated, generally at the center. But I don't know whether we should call what is going on financial autonomy or increased in the funding of the judiciary. That is what is confusing me. Because in my state, I think I have what I can call financial autonomy in the sense that, the money that is due according to the budget and according to the resources available, is, sent to the judiciary. They pay their salary. They do their projects. They take care of, their welfare, according to the budget. But definitely, I cannot say it is adequate. So that's why I'm confused whether what we are talking about is financial autonomy or increased in the funding of the judiciary. I'm using my state as an example. The same thing with the House of Assembly. But definitely, it will not be enough because it has never been enough. So if I understand what is going on, if what I've defined is not financial autonomy, because largely what is being discussed is, increase in funding and how it is being funded. That is what, is being discussed.
Well, that's not what we have heard. What we have heard is that in some states, yes, there has been some partial compliance with what the judiciary workers are demanding, or workers in the judiciary are demanding. They are asking that all monies, as stipulated in the Constitution, be given to the head of the judiciary in their states. According to a number of them, that the monies from the internally generated revenue of the states are being given to them as and when due. However, the monies that come directly from the federal government that's supposed to get to the judiciary in the different states are not being given to them. In fact, very few states are in full, if any at all, are in full compliance of the judicial autonomy as stipulated by the Constitution. I'll ask you a very simple question, Your Excellency. Are you still involved in any activities, say buying of cars, building of houses for judges? Is the executive arm of government in your state still directly responsible for that?
That is not, if what I've defined as what is going on in my state is not financial autonomy, I needed to be corrected, For example, the House of Assembly, this is the amount of money they have voted to buy cars. We send it to them. They buy their cars. This is the amount of money for their salaries. We send it to them. The constituency project, it's a constitutional matter. They identify the projects, the executive, execute the project. But the contracts, as per, their offices, their residents, they get the money. They award it, by themselves. We also have direct labor law, which they also comply to. The same thing with the judiciary. So if, for example, if a judge is to be made now, and it was not envisaged that a judge will be made in this fiscal year, the chief judge would write to say, look, we need a residency for the judge, we need a vehicle for the judge. That's incidental. And then the chief executive has to now give them money, you know, to do all those. So I think this is financial autonomy.
Okay. Well, I'm still a little lost because you didn't quite answer directly.
No, I've answered it.
Whether you're still involved directly.
No, they pay for their cars.
In building or
No.
buying vehicles
No.
for members of the judiciary in your state. In
No.
some states, they say yes, the judiciary pays the salaries of its workers, but when it comes to things like contracts, things that involve contracts, the executive is still very heavily involved in the matter. Is that the situation in your state?
No. The judiciary have built a number of projects.
Are
you
they
know.
involved in building their own courts, for
Yeah,
instance?
Yes, yeah. They are the ones that build their courts. I don't build the courts. They build the
Have you,
courts.
since you say you're not very certain or clear, have you had conversations with your colleagues as to what the situation is, you know, across their own states to see whether, well, this is not exactly what obtains in my state, so maybe they're just on strike in my state as a result, you know, in solidarity with other workers who haven't quite gotten full financial autonomy?
That's why I said that I don't know what is being discussed, whether it is increase in funding or it's financial autonomy.
Have you spoken with your colleagues?
Yes and no, you know, but what I'm trying to say is, why should
Yes
the state...
and no, Your Excellency. Why are you hesitant to admit that you've spoken with your colleagues on the matter?
No, look at this, you know. We were so, we rushed into this without, you know, understanding the dynamics, you know. No state is the same, you know. If I'm doing this in my state and it is not what the Constitution says, the chief judge should be able to approach me to say, hey, the Constitution says A, B, C, D, you know. And another state, you know, the same. You cannot generalize, you know. There are some states that, that have resources. They have built even personal houses for their judges, you know. Some other states don't have such resources. So you can't have a common denominator.
Your
in this kind of
Excellency, the
situation.
Constitution is not ambiguous.
Yes.
In its statement that the monies due the judiciary
Yes.
should be given directly to the judiciary. What they're asking for is that they be at first-line charge, very much like INEC is at the federal level, or the legislative arm of government is also at the federal level, that whatever monies come directly into the common purse, whatever is due to the judiciary be given to the head. That is unambiguous. As to whether or not the money is enough or we are not as buoyant as this other state is inconsequential.
I think that is not the issue. Because this is very simple. Why should a governor go to pay the salary of judicial workers? Why should a judge be knocking at the door of a governor, you know, to get money to travel and so on and so forth? It's very debasing. It's very debasing, you know. That is the truth. The governor is not more important than the judges, not more important than the House of Assembly members, you know. And none of these people, you know, is more important than the common masses. We have to come to that understanding. So I don't see anything wrong in whatever that is, you know, due to the judges, based on the availability of funds, you know, should not be given to them directly.
No, based on what they have written and demanded in the budget as passed into law by the different state houses of assembly. Is that what is being implemented?
It's not attainable. The budget is dynamic. The budget is an estimate. And so you cannot tell me that if, for example, the budget of the House of Assembly is 10 billion, the budget of the judiciary is 5 billion, the budget of the executive is 20 billion, and then if you aggregate it, probably it's come to about 50 billion, you know, so to say. And then you now tell me that if I receive money from Abuja, I should give you a percentage of that 10 billion or a percentage of 20 billion. It's unthinkable. It's not done anyway.
What is unthinkable about it?
Because the amount of money you receive is not in line with the budget. You just receive a fraction of your budget. The budget is an estimate. You know, like in the past few months, my state has been losing money from the FARC. And so what do? It's dynamic. It's not fixed. So everybody feels, you know, the impact of the economy.
Is there a way, is there an equitable way to ensure, because these are equal arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, they're equal arms of government before the law.
That's misconception. That's misconception.
It's a misconception?
Yes, there is one government. Okay, it's one government. Recurrent expenditure for the three arms is first line charge. And that's how it should be. Now, I've heard a lot of discussion where they say, okay, there will be a fund allocation committee from the judiciary, from the executive, from the legislature. And then they will now agree on how to redistribute the funds, you know, after maybe the recurrent expenditure. And I asked them, where is the labor in this? Where is the market woman in this? Where is the students? Where are they? Where the common person in the society? No, they should all be brought in. Because what ought to be done is to say, okay, this is the amount of money that is left for projects after recurrent expenditure. And then you now tell the governor, we want this school to be fixed. We want this thing to be done, so that the entire society will know this is what the limitation of the governor. Then they also know that this is what the judiciary, you know, these are the projects the judiciary will build. These are the projects that the House of Assembly will build, so that nobody calls governor. For example, the security just, you know, insecurity erupted in my state. Where do you have that, you know, in this kind of arrangement? There are incidentals that come to, you know, a state, and that must be handled.
Indeed. My colleagues have questions for you, gentlemen.
Well, Your Excellency...
Pardon me,
okay, go ahead.
If I could just go ahead and I just want to read out this portion of the law to you, just to get your perspective of it. It's section 121.3. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. It appears to be the crux of the matter here. I mean, yes, 121 talks about the governor shall cause to be prepared, the budget, and all of those processes. But sub 3 then says, any amount standing to the credit of the judiciary in the consolidated revenue fund of the state shall be paid directly to the heads of the courts concerned. What's your interpretation of this?
As it sounds, as it's read, that's what it is. And that's what we've been talking about, and I support it.
So that means that the budget of the judiciary, as the budget comes to, has to be paid directly to them. It doesn't mean that, well, they have to write to you requesting you approve A, B, C, or D every time they need an item. That's not how this says it should work.
They don't. They don't need to do that. They don't need to apply to me. My House of Assembly, they don't apply to me. When funds, you know, come in, and I don't understand the interpretation they talk about, you know, receiving from IG and not receiving from the Federation account. No, the funds, consolidated revenue, is when you bring all funds coming to the purse of government at any point in time. That is the fund of government. And it is from there that whatever is due to them is paid directly to them.
Your Excellency, if that is what already exists, and the Johnson strike is still on, what then do you make of the comments of the governor of Ekiti State, who is the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, that says that Nigerian governors will start implementing financial autonomy for the judiciary latest by May ending? So what then is to be implemented if there is no issue?
I don't know the states. We are 36 states, and I'm talking about my state. I'm talking about the definition of, you know, that constitutional provision. I don't want to go to the nitty-gritty of responsibilities, you know, where the federal government is paying the judges, and then the governors are expected to buy their vehicles, and this is absurd. And I listened to one son in this kind of conversation, and he dealt with the matter properly, you know, who has what, you know, which responsibility. And without going to cause more havoc, But I thought that the governors ought to just have responsibility to their magistrate courts, whereas the high courts, customary court and, the customary, Sharia court, will be handled by the federal government. But I think also to raise this matter, it is also very important that we can further this discussion and find how we can, put this judiciary matter, even within the federation account, whereby whatever is due to them is agreed upon, and then taken directly from the federation account. And of course, you need to amend the constitution because all funds due to states are given. But, just like, how INEC is being funded, just like how, TED Fund is being funded, we can look at that. But I think in my state, I don't pay the salaries of, these people. The money that is due to them is sent directly to them. But don't forget, the incidentals and incidentals and such that there may be issues that will arise within any arm of the government, which was never envisaged. And then what will the head of the court, for example, do? He has to fall back to the executive. You will never have enough, in terms of, what you get. So it's shifting of priorities. And that's why it appears as if, the heads of court, apply to, government. It's not so. For example, if a head of court is getting X naira, as the welfare, and, probably there is a debt, God forbid, and people are going to be coming from other states and so on and so forth. It wasn't envisaged, Definitely, there is one government. You have to fall back on the executive, and the executive has to shift priority to meet the needs because it's also the face of the state.
You're implying then that this implementation that the chairman of the NGF spoke about, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, are you saying that your state is not part of that implementation?
I don't think anything is changing in my state, but I think that largely what is being discussed is increase in funding, of the judiciary and the legislature. That's what, I make out of all these things. Because why would governor want to buy cars for the judges? Why would governor want to, payroll the workers, I think because why I'm confused is that what they're discussing is already happening in so many states, but largely the content of discussion has been a kind of increase in funding. And this increase in funding is what necessitates saying, look, if you come from, Abuja every month, that you now have a joint committee to share allocation. And I'm saying such joint committee must include the labor, must include the pensioners, must include the students, must include the market women, so that the card is all on the table, facing up. Nothing should be hidden.
Your Excellency,
because governors demarcate themselves so much by, by not showing up everything, what they're passing through. It is important that they begin to show everything, all cards facing up, so that the society will begin to know their limitations. Right. People, just 2 days ago, a bridge collapsed, built, so many years back. And then if text message started coming everywhere, I should intervene. Where is that going to come from in this kind of arrangement?
Your Excellency, I think the judiciary workers...
No sector.
Right, pardon me. I think they've been quite clear and vehement about what they want. They call it financial autonomy. In fact, the NBA has supported them asking for financial autonomy first. I mean, which can, of course, lead to other things like, increased funding and the rest. But the term they use time and again is financial autonomy for the judiciary. But just to put you on record, just so people can, get the major point, you are saying, in essence, that Ebonyi State has fully implemented financial autonomy for the judiciary as stipulated by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Am I right?
Excellent. Yes, sure. Excellent. Excellent.
So when you said earlier about disbursing funds, that if the judiciary asks for a certain amount and the legislature asks for this amount and the executive has a certain amount, that the judiciary can't get that because of the current situation. So are you saying that there's always going to be a peg to the amount they get from the allocations?
If, for example, I get $1 billion as my consolidated revenue for the month, and I deal with the first line charge, which is the recurrent expenditure. Of course, nobody gets enough, from the three arms of government. And the next month, I get 800,000, for example. What I do, because largely the executive, they always have the chunk of, the funds. And the chunk of the funds, go to projects. And so what happens is that some projects, we have to stop so as to meet the same amount that I give to them, even though I'm not getting the same amount of money this month, But I have to be committed, to this. But if I have more, for example, I suddenly have 1.5 billion, for example, I have to, find a way to also increase their funding. So what everyone gets is a function of what comes in.
Well, because if this is the case, why then were the governors not happy with Section 7B of the Executive Order 10 that the president signed, which speaks about the Accountant General of the Federation taking appropriate steps to ensure compliance of that EO 10?
I'm still confused about this, and my position is that every state should grant financial autonomy to judiciary. It is not a question of executive order. It's a question of respect for, every arm of government. Yes, the governor is the head of the government, but there must be mutual respect. Whatever is due to the judiciary, within the limit of what is available, must be given directly to them. And it's as simple as that. There is no ambiguity in that. But how much you get is a function of, how much each arm gets. It's a function of how much comes to the state.
All right, we'll come back to this in just a moment. Please join us again.
We condemn totally the killings of policemen and burning of police stations in Southeast that are not being done by herdsmen. They are done by people across the Southeast, bandits and criminals. And my directive to policemen is that if you see anybody coming to kill you, demobilize the person. That is the rule of engagement. Police people should not fold their hands and be killed. Vehicles burnt, police stations burnt. And I want Southeast leaders to rise up to condemn this. How do we feel if because of the killing and burning of police stations in Southeast, the federal government decides to withdraw all the police people from Southeast? We should rise up to condemn what is evil. And this is very important. Those you claim are protecting us are not protecting us. Let us not create another monster in Southeast. We will all regret it. We will confront any herdsman coming to Ebonyi State with AK-47. I've directed that they should be confronted. If you are coming to Ebonyi State with AK-47, and my directive is just obvious because Mr. President had already directed as such. So if you're a herdsman, you are coming to Ebonyi State with AK-47, you will be confronted with the same measure that you are bringing to Ebonyi State.
All right, welcome back. Your Excellency, let's just at least get this a little clearer. Now, you say it will then depend on what is available to the state. But the thing is, that clause is not included in this executive order. It says, based on the budget of the judiciary, they can deduct it from source and hand to them so that they don't have to rely on any other governor saying, no, this is what we can give you, your budget notwithstanding. That is a difference from deducting from source, from the governor disbursing funds to them. They think those are two different things.
That's very annoying. It's a very annoying, Chamberlain, in the sense that you can't stay in Abuja and then if, for example, I'm getting a shortfall of funds and you're asking me to pay a percentage of budget. I've told you that budget is a mere estimate. And everybody gets, a percentage of the budget based on the availability of funds. But let me tell you something. At the inception of budget, conception, the head of the judiciary, the head of the executive, the head of, court, three of them can sit down and say, look, this year, this is the amount of infrastructure we want to build in the state. This is the amount of, in the judiciary, for example, this is the amount of, infrastructure we want to build in the legislature. The deficiency of infrastructure in the judiciary in Ebonyi State is different from what is in, in Ekiti State. It's different from what is in Lagos State. A time comes where you have built everything you needed to build in terms of infrastructure. At least you would have built up to 90-something%. It's different from young states like Ebonyi State that is just starting. So we continue to have infrastructure deficiency for some years now. Now, if three of you are committed to this project, and of course the governor will be saying, I want to do this road, I want to do this education, I want to do this health. Everybody will come to agreement. This is the amount that is voted for all these things. And then the funds, start coming. It's an expectation, And of course, my first expectation of the righteous will not be cut short. So we believe that these funds will come as budgeted. But if they don't fail to come as budgeted, then we have to prioritize some of the projects. And so it's an agreement that what you're getting, we do A, B, C, D. These ones could be pushed over to the next year. That is understanding. And it's different from state to state. The needs are different from state to state. And that is my position.
Well, I don't know, we don't know what the understanding of Nigerians will be, from what you have been able to explain. But let us see if they will be able to, be on the same page with the explanation that you have given this morning. Your Excellency, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. We're totally out of time. There are lots of other issues that I would like to take up with you, such as the economy. You have made reference to a shortfall in your revenues, and it would have been interesting to see, where you also stand, I don't know, on the 60 billion naira controversy, the plan of the CBN to start recovering monies from state governors as a result of that statement, the budget support that was given in the past. But sadly, we're out of time. Hopefully,
but those two statements are very unfortunate and very unpatriotic. There's no way governor, I didn't hear that, but people said, it was said, the governor will come out and say that CBN is printing money. And there's no way CBN governor, as a result of that, will come public and say we start deducting money. The chain is as strong as the weakest link. If the states should collapse, the government is gone. So you don't say that because somebody has annoyed you. Now say, okay, it's like you're punishing them. No, we have to manage this country. It belongs to all of us. Nobody is a headmaster and the other one is, people. You're all holding the position in trust for everybody. And so I condemn totally for a governor to come out and say federal government is printing, but that's very irresponsible.
Well, sadly, we would have loved you to expatiate a bit more on that, because some people will say, what if he was just trying to bring to the fore, because he has also said he was trying to bring to the fore what he terms financial recklessness on the part of the federal government. And he fears that if this is not stopped, we could be headed down a path which we do not want to.
I disagree with that.
A path to what some have called to Harare, or a path to Zimbabwe.
You do not demarcate the federal government. The federal government is doing quite a lot, but people are not speaking for them. It's time for people to speak for the president. He's doing quite a lot. It's global challenges, but it's been daily demarcated, and people are not talking. So no governor should come up and say such a thing. Your
Excellency, thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Hopefully you will come again very soon. Well, we have a number of mails. Just before we go, yes, we have been speaking with Dave Umahi, who is the governor of Ebonyi State and the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. We're now going to take some of your mails and tweets. We have this one from Olagunju Oladele, who says, we tolerate too many failures and excuses in Nigeria. Security officers should be treated like medical staff. They're both in charge of protecting our lives. Internally, that's health, and externally, that's security. Would you want a quack doctor for your health care? Big question.
We'll read this one from Bruce. Says, especially for those who know the sponsors of banditry and terror. No invite for questioning, no arrests, absolutely nothing done. This is why the entire DSS needs to be revealed by the National Assembly. Arms are coming into Nigeria and the DSS are unable to stop it. That's worrying.
Exactly. Babs Babalola, sharing a concern, says, I pray for a daily newspaper review without insecurity issue and alarming money distribution.
Well, Uncle Femi says, the case of Dr. Issa Pantami puts the security arms of the government in the spotlight, whether they do their thorough background checks before passing anyone for appointment. Pantami must be investigated, but let him resign first. Well, there you go. That is the show today. Yeah, go ahead, Makwa.
Indeed, it is the show today. Thank you so much for writing in. Thank you for your thoughts as well. I'm Makwa Ogun Yusuf.
Well, I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Please stay safe.
I'm Train Benuso. We'll see you next time.